Right now from the Business and Media Institute. Man, I just realized I'm Brent Bozell's best friend today. You are welcome, Mr. Bozell. Fine work your staff is doing. At the Business and Media Institute, Liz Thatcher is with us. Liz, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about the electronic media during the break. We ran a clip of Joe Scarborough opining from an orifice other than his mouth. But it's not just the electronic media. The print media is doing this as well. You pointed out of the top 20 newspapers in terms of circulation in this country, not in terms of quality, it should be noted, but in terms of circulation, 18 of the top 20 papers so far have pushed for President Obama's gun control proposals.
Yeah, and been equally demonizing of the NRA, so...
Yeah, some of the we've talked about things like the New York Times, and you point out they ran a lot of editorials.
Yeah, they had 14 editorials. In the time that I analyzed it, they were the most hostile in regards to the NRA and pushing the gun control.
Yeah, the December 22nd editorial titled "The NRA Crawls from Its Hidey Hole." You say they went completely unhinged.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the title of that, knowing how beautiful the office is out in Fairfax. I didn't consider that a hidey hole at all. But yeah, they basically stated the day before the press conference, they were saying how they weren't expecting anything from the NRA, and then the next day they were just saying, yeah, we were right. But you don't state that you're going to have your mind made up before you go to a press conference. They didn't even need to go. They could have written that editorial without having attended the press conference.
Oh, and absolutely. They may have had much of that editorial written and ready to go before the press conference even began.
Yeah.
And you point out as well, we expect this from a lot of the print media, the mainstream media. But it's not just a matter of endorsing and supporting gun control proposals. You say that the newspapers also ignored an armed citizen who helped to stop a shooting in Oregon.
Yeah. So on the Monday before Newtown, there was a small mall shooting where 2 people were killed. You didn't hear a lot about it in the media. It was mentioned bypassed in the editorials. But and I was looking for coverage just in local newspapers of what happened with that, and there was only one news station that actually said, oh, that interviewed the armed gunman that intervened and stopped the shooting. And it was a guy with concealed and carry who knew how to hold his weapon and confronted the shooter, which then stopped him before the police could even get there.
But again, not widely reported at all.
Hardly reported at all in the mainstream media. And while the editorials were totally willing to use this instance as another mass shooting, they ignored the fact that it wasn't as devastating as it could have been.
Interesting. And you point out some of the language that's being used here. The Star Ledger in Newark, New Jersey says that NRA Wayne LaPierre, quote, personifies the mind-numbing extremism that makes the NRA a pariah. The San Jose Mercury News referred to the NRA's press conferences as, quote, disturbing and unhinged, and claimed they're, quote, not interested in protecting Americans from gun violence. Tampa Bay Times says the NRA is, quote, self-serving. New York Daily News said President Obama should, quote, lead Congress in telling the NRA to go to hell. And yet, Liz, we have seen in poll after poll after poll that has been conducted over the last month, the NRA and its members are seen in a more positive light by the American public than Congress, Hollywood, and even President Obama.
Yeah.
I don't know if Gallup has done any polling on the popularity of the National Rifle Association versus the popularity of the New York Times editorial board, but I'm guessing
it's probably going to be higher.
I'm guessing that it's going to be higher as well.
And you guys have gained a ton of members in the past month too. And if you read these editorials or you look at the mainstream media who have demonized the NRA, you would think if this was a popular opinion of the citizens of America that the NRA would be losing numbers. People wouldn't be running out and buying AR-15s like they have been, but it's the complete opposite of what the media has been saying.
Well, it is the opposite, and that's why I think that there is this, look, there's always been a disconnect between the media types who live and work in New York City and Los Angeles, and even to a certain extent here in Washington D.C., and people who live in the rest of the country. There just is that disconnect, but it's become a lot more noticeable. I think it's become a lot more egregious, and we are being told now that if we don't feel like these editorial writers feel, if we don't support what these editorial writers support, that we, the people, are awful, rotten, horrible monsters. And
heartless, don't care about children. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And so I think, look, I don't know what the circulation numbers, I don't know if they're going down. I know the newspaper industry overall is, shall we say, it's not doing well. But I don't know if you've seen, large numbers of people, stop subscribing to these papers. But I think it's real easy for Americans to tune these folks out and to just, I disagree with you. I'm going to go see what's Garfield doing today. What's going on with the family circus? That Billy, he's a scamp. He's always getting into trouble. When the op-ed pages are sillier than the comic strips, I think it's real easy for people to just literally turn the page.
And I think that's where it's getting, as people are ignoring what the media and newspapers are saying because they don't agree, and the newspapers aren't displaying what the majority of Americans believe. They have their elitist group, and they write with that and demonize everybody else. Yeah,
and this is a problem going forward. I mean, we talk about the media bias, and it's great that conservatives, let's say you got Fox News, Wall Street Journal editorial page, you said did not write an anti or a pro-gun control editorial. But that's one paper. Granted, it's the paper with the largest circulation in America. Granted, Fox News is the cable news network with the most viewers on cable television. But when you look at these, just look at the quantity of the media out there. And yes, conservatives, people who are looking for a different voice and a different view, they can find it. But by and large, the media industry is still largely in lockstep. And, I just can't help but wonder if there was anybody on the editorial staff of those 18 papers who in the editorial meeting said, well, hang on, I'd like to talk, let's take this from a different approach. Let's really talk about this. And what would happen if they said, I don't feel comfortable writing this editorial. I'm not going to, keep me out of this one. I don't want to be a part of this one.
Or require, most of the editorials don't have bylines, so just require to say who wrote this and contributed to it so you would know. I also think most of these people probably aren't gun owners and have never shot a gun in their life, so they don't know the differences in the guns or what exactly they do.
Well, no, I think that's
which is a big problem.
No, it is a big problem. And look, I'm glad you brought that up because Terry Moran today from ABC said after Rand Paul had questioned Hillary Clinton, well, what are your foreign policy qualifications, Rand Paul? Why should, in other words, why should we care what you, Senator Paul, have to say? Did you ever serve overseas? Do you have a career in diplomacy? And I cannot wait, Terry, I cannot wait for you to start holding your colleagues to that same standard when it comes to reporting on firearms and gun issues. I cannot wait for you to ring Joe Scarborough and say, Joe, what the hell are you doing? You're getting on TV every day and you're opining about stuff that you know nothing about. Stop it. It's wrong for Rand Paul and it's wrong for you. But we're never going to see the media hold themselves to that same standard.
That's right.
Am I wrong?
No, I think you're completely right. Like they don't hold each other's accountable. They don't call out each other, and they feel like they're experts on everything, whether they know it or not. I don't think there's any other industry that you could get away with using gun models interchangeably like they do with this whole debate.
Right.
An AR-15 is not the same as a Glock. They're not all the same. They all have different functions, and just because they're kind of the same doesn't make them the exact same. It's like if the media interchanged iPhone and Droid, like you wouldn't do that, even though they're similar and they have the same functions, and you don't do that with guns, and that's what they're doing repeatedly with the gun debate.
Absolutely. I have this vision of like at the Oak Ridge labs, them bringing in all of the employees for a seminar and saying, okay, we're going to talk about nuclear safety. We brought in Liz, who actually has never worked in a nuclear facility before, but she watches The Simpsons. At least she did for a couple of years as a kid. So she's seen Homer at work. And Liz, go ahead, take it away. What can we be doing to improve our safety?
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, listen, Liz, unfortunately, we are out of time for this hour, but thank you so much for coming in the studio. Great talking to you. Hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Liz Thatcher with the Business and Media Institute.